County Democrats to honor a lifelong member of the National Education Association, our 2024 Friend of Labor, Marianne Killer. Hi, sweetie pie. Hold that for me. As I begin, I'd like to thank Jerry Frederickson. Jerry and I worked together in honoring our friend Marianne Ford. Marianne has been a volunteer for our county party for many, many years. For 7 years, she and I teamed up to lead our county party. With 2 retired teachers, we brought years of experience of how to break a task down, making sure that there was something for everyone, and they had an opportunity to step up and join our county party team. In 2014, Marianne worked to secure caucus sites for all our rural precincts. Following the 2016 election, Marianne was committed to focusing on electing rural candidates and formed the Rural Caucus within our county party. As a retired art teacher, Marianne brought her professional skills to making signage for all our events, taking the lead in decorating booths at the county fairs. She's incredibly creative and offers in her quiet way a special touch in mailings, publications, leading the county party's Rural Caucus. She's led the charge in organizing events for our rural candidates, putting together the print pieces, the biographies for the rural candidates. Marianne currently is active member of Building the Party Committee and our County Party Fundraising Committee. Marianne is a party loyalist who brings the best out of people and who knows and all those who love her. Thank you, my darling, for your dedication to the Democrats up and down the ticket. You truly are a deserving friend of the labor. Congratulations, Marianne.
You all know I love to talk. This will be real brief. Thank you. I am absolutely shocked beyond belief. So thanks to all of Pottawattamie County Democrats for making this possible. Thank you. And thank you, Linda.
And Jerry.
Yes. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. And speaking of thank yous, we zipped right through that. I want to say a couple. Marcia Pilger, where are you? Marcia, thank you. Marcia arranged all these lovely salads and desserts and everything that I can't do because I had 3 picnics in 2 days and I was in Sioux City until like about an hour and a half ago. So thank you, Marcia. Thank you to Jeff Shudak, who's been on the grill this afternoon for cooking. And thank you to everybody who brought wonderful salads and desserts, by the way, because let me tell you, this is a way better spread than we had at either one of the other picnics, and it's all because of Pot County Democrats who volunteer to make this stuff and to bring it here for all of us to eat. So thank you to everybody who brought something. And now we are going to hear from some people who are running for office this year. And for the most part, the folks that you're going to hear from today are labor-endorsed candidates because that's what we're about. We want people in the Iowa House, people in the Iowa Senate, people at every level who will fight for working families. And so that's a big umbrella because, as we know, pretty much every issue touches working families. You know, I mean, when the price of goods goes up, that hits working families the hardest. When there's no mental health care available, that hits working families the hardest. You know, when there's a storm, like there was in Minden earlier this year, that hits working people the hardest. You can't, I mean, how do you even go to work, right? When you, like if you have an hourly wage job, how do you even go to work when your home is destroyed and you have to tend to that? So it's so important that we have people making policy at the policy level who are keeping these things in mind. And the really exciting thing about this year is we have two middle-class people who just happen to grow up and be in public service and just happen to be really good at it. And now they're at the pinnacle of power, on the cusp, I should say, of the pinnacle of power in this country. And we need them in that office because they will protect our rights, they will protect our freedoms. So, but we need that at every level. So right now I'm going to call on our U.S. candidate for Congress in the 4th District, Ryan Melton. Come up here.
Five to 10 minutes, just like in Sioux City, or how are we feeling? I'm trying to get a little bit better at being more succinct. No promises, though. So this morning, I engaged in the same Labor Day ritual that I've engaged in since 2022 when I first ran, which is, well, look at me, eat first, obviously, but then after that, go ahead and pull up my opponent Randy Feenstra's social media accounts, knowing exactly what he's going to post. He's going to post some hollow, shallow pandering to the workers of the 4th Congressional District, right? I didn't even have to know that that was what he was going to do, but I looked and sure enough, there it was. And so, then the next step is you go to the AFL-CIO website and you go look at the congressional scorecard. So the AFL-CIO keeps track of every vote that every member of Congress takes when it comes to workers' rights. So Randy Feenstra, the guy who every Labor Day talks about how much he values the sacrifices of our labor force in this congressional district of ours, he has a lifetime rating of 7%. So I'm all about education, right? And I think Randy just needs some help, needs a boost. So I took my little screenshot of the congressional scorecard and I plopped it right in the reply for everyone to see that 7% lifetime score. And I'm sure he's very grateful. You know, I'm sure there's an oversight, you know. So this guy is bragging about his bona fides when it comes to voting for the workers, but he votes against their interests 93% of the time, right? And he just banks on people not knowing that. So education is power. You're welcome, 4th District citizens. So I think you all are going to know who Shawn Fain is, right? Raise of hands. Who knows who Shawn Fain is? Right, Shawn Fain, most of the UAW leader, right? One of my favorite leaders in this country right now. And he's been really focusing on something that my campaign has also been focusing on. So Shawn Fain talks often of the fact that you have this power structure, the billionaire class, the powers that be, right? That do whatever they can to emphasize what divides us, to emphasize the differences between the hardworking folks on the left and the hardworking folks on the right? And there's a reason why the powers that be do this. The powers that be do this because they know that if the workers on the left and the workers on the right united, that would be a powerful force that no amount of money could go against, right? So this cycle, obviously recognizing that I am running for Congress in literally one of the most conservative districts in the country, a district that a Democrat has not held the seat of in my lifetime, although you can kind of debate the nuance whether it was 82 or 84, depending upon the 5th and 6th congressional district, which no longer exists. I don't want to bore you, though. I turned 40 this month. Pretty much there's been no representation on the Democratic side in this U.S. House seat in my lifetime. Okay? Now, I recognize that that's one reason to talk to Republicans, right? But that's not the only reason. A bigger reason is quite simply that I think that politics is not about party, partisan optics, gamesmanship. It's about getting to the root of what ails us and working in common cause, regardless of political affiliation, to solve the problems that we face. So I've really challenged myself to get myself in front of as many Republicans this cycle as I can. So I've spoken to rooms and rooms full of Republicans, from Primgar in O'Brien County to Sutherland in O'Brien County, that's far northwest Iowa, to Marshalltown, the Pachyderm Club, which I have to admit is a pretty cool name, even though it's a bunch of Republicans in a room together. I'll give them that, cool name, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Massive amounts of anti-carbon capture pipeline events that I've been at. And in those rooms, it's mostly Republican as well, because most of the folks that attend those events are typically the landowners directly impacted by the pipelines. And in rural red district, 4th congressional district, you're mostly going to see Republican landowners impacted, right? So I can tell you that if we were to gather a bunch of Democrats, all Democrats in one room, and we were to catalog a list of all the things they were complaining about, there would be an awful lot more overlap with what the room full of Republicans is complaining about than you might think. So let's go through this real quick. So number one, every single Republican that I've talked to, they've given me that foot in the door, that little foot that prolongs the conversation, because they know that I reject corporate PAC money. That's a big trust builder, not only with Republicans, but really people of any political affiliation, right? That's really kept the conversation going. And then it segues into the carbon capture pipeline issue. Raise of hands if you know what the carbon capture pipelines are even about. So most of you guys, okay. So I was arguably the first candidate in this state to run against the pipelines back in early 2022 before most people even knew what they were. Yay. Yeah. For a variety of reasons, not just the obvious eminent domain abuse, because we know this is not what eminent domain is intended for. It's not intended for private gain like this, right? But these pipelines are also a massive threat to our public health, our water quality and availability, and honestly, there's a big waste of taxpayer money, because they do not mitigate human-caused climate change nearly as much as they advertise themselves to do. And we have a lot of data to show that, right? Hard to find a Republican in this district that's in agreement that these carbon capture pipelines are a good thing, right? And they give me credit for starting that push. Number three, it's hard to find a Republican that's happy with these attacks from the Reynolds administration on public education and on the AEA system. The rest of Republicans in small town Iowa know that if a public school collapses, the town that they live in is going to collapse soon after. We already have plenty of examples of that across the state. That problem is just going to amplify under our current trajectory. Cancer crisis. Okay, so raise of hands. Do you know how highly we are ranked as far as cancer incidence rate in the country? Raise your hands if you know it. Don't shout it out. Just raise your hands if you know it. Okay, so there's not a lot of hands up here, so I want you to recognize something here, because that's the same kind of reaction we get in Republican rooms as well, right? We have the second highest cancer incidence rate in the country, and we're the only state with a rising cancer incidence rate. Now, somebody asked, why do so few people know about that, other than often folks who either have cancer, have a loved one who's suffering from cancer? Why don't we know that? Because that is public health crisis, all alarms should be blaring, right?
Yep.
Well, we don't know that because there's massive amounts of corporate money in the pockets of those elected officials who run this state, and they're too afraid to talk about it because they'll lose their donor money, right? But it's worse than that. And Republican rank and file voters are really angry about this too. It's worse than that because it's not just that. We have a lot of sick Iowans right now. But instead of our elected officials who are running the state, primarily Republicans, because we're a red state at this point, instead of them introducing legislation to provide funding to get to the root causes of the cancer crisis, last legislative session in Des Moines, they introduced a bill that would literally seek to remove legal liability from the companies that are selling the chemicals that are in part driving the cancer crisis. And there are so many Republican rank and file voters that are absolutely infuriated by what their party leadership is doing to them. And that leads to the next piece, which is this complete sellout by the state-level Republican Party to the corporate power that owns them. Just this brazen disregard for all the basic principles that the Republican Party has long ran on, right? Being wise with taxpayer money, well, these pipelines are a scam, literally. Landowner rights, which now we're in a state where our IUB, Iowa Utilities Board, which is now the IUC, because the IUB acronym became so toxic they had to change it apparently to the IUC, but it's the same organization. They have made a decision back in July that granted Summit eminent domain power over our land. Now it's based on certain conditions for sure. And there's a ways to go before this is final. There's still a lot of fighting left to do. But what kind of message does that send to your Republican rank and file voters that corporate power trumps private landowner rights? Because that's what the message is. That's just the decision, right? And also economic viability. You know, our per capita household income is so much lower than most of our surrounding states in the Midwest because there's been this massive hollowing out of rural Iowa. And instead of injecting money to invest and stem the tide on that, it seems like a Governor Reynolds and a Randy Feenstra are okay with this hollowing out because the types of people that are leaving are people like us, who are less likely to vote for them, right? So Randy Feenstra, I'll finish here before I give you my closing thought, which if you don't know what my closing thought is yet, I feel like if you haven't heard of it in the news, I think you'll be happy about it. So hang in there with me. So Randy Feenstra is one of 4 members of the U.S. House who represent this state, right? There's 4 congressional districts. Each member of the U.S. House can choose 15 projects to fund annually as part of a community improvement earmark process, okay? Actually, the Dale Nonpareil ran this story. And actually, kudos to them, it's a good story. The other 3 Iowa House Republicans representing the state in D.C. just this year alone asked for a collective $115 million from that process for their communities. How much did Randy Feenstra, my opponent and our current incumbent, ask for? 0! He's asked for $0.00 for 4 years in a row. 4 years in a row. And every time I open up local news, like 2 weeks ago, there was a bridge that just collapsed in Plymouth County in northwest Iowa. The floods we had a few months ago all throughout the 4th Congressional District, and the levee dam problems we had. Every month I read a new local news story about our infrastructure falling apart, and every time I read that story, I think, oh, there's another project that Randy Feenstra could have asked for money for if he really gave a damn about what we're going through in this congressional district. That's the problem. He's not representing us. He's representing those who give him his money, because he's taken hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars from corporate PACs. That segues to some really cool news, I'd say. Randy Feenstra was challenged in the Republican primary by a guy named Kevin Virgil. Raise your hands if you know who Kevin Virgil is, if that name rings a bell. I've got a story to tell you. This will be quick. Somewhat quick. No promises. I'll do my best. Kevin Virgil was so frustrated and represents this growing wing of dissatisfaction within the state Republican rank and file. He was so mad that he decided to challenge Randy Feenstra. Now, Kevin Virgil had no name recognition, no political experience, no pedigree, and no money. And he started this primary election really late. So he announced December of 2023 for an early June primary election day. So a 6-month primary election. Not a lot of time there, right? But he ran on a few basic things. Now, Kevin Virgil and I, we disagree on plenty of things. But we overlap in a few big areas. The number one thing he ran on was his opposition of the carbon capture pipelines, actually, which is causing massive amounts of anger across the district for the reasons we talked about. He really pushed back on disproportionate corporate power and its corrupting influence in our governance and our politics. Again, sounds like me, because I say that all the time too. And he also is upset about the unaddressed cancer crisis. And how do I know that? Because in his primary against Randy Feenstra, he was retweeting my posts on it. 2 Fridays ago, I talk to Kevin Virgil every once in a while. I was not expecting what I saw. So I posted a recap of my event that day with the All-Republican Pachyderm Club in Marshalltown and how well it went. Again, we agreed to disagree on some things, but there's a lot more common ground than the powers that be would like us to think. So I posted it. Soon after, Kevin Virgil retweeted it and endorsed me. Last week, that's a great soundtrack to this. This was a great way to end this. Last week, I had the most fun running for Congress I've ever had. And you know why? Because the Iowa Republican Party spent the entire week publicly shitting themselves on Twitter, begging their voters not to vote for me. Everyone. Governor Reynolds, Joni Ernst, Randy Feed, like all of them. And here's what might be the best news of it all. You know, you could make a good argument that a logical reaction from the Iowa Republican Party to the news of Kevin Virgil's endorsement is to just ignore it. But instead, they literally spent an entire week doing everything they could to let as many people know that Kevin Virgil endorsed me. So on its face, that seems rather illogical, doesn't it? But thank you for all the free press. I appreciate it. But I'll finish here. It actually is a very logical thing if their own internal numbers show them that things are not looking good for them and they had no other choice. So I'll finish here. A Main Street USA poll that just came out late last week found that Democrats are winning in 3 of the 4 congressional districts right now. Now I know that the 4th congressional district is the barren tundra, I know. So we're kind of a different animal. So we're not quite there yet, okay? But that polling was done before the Virgil endorsement. And I assure you, I'll let all of our Republican and right-leaning independent friends know in any possible mechanism I can deploy of the Virgil endorsement. So I anticipate we'll get a nice bump too. So here's the thing. We really got to challenge ourselves to talk to our friends on the right. They are much more open to a conversation than they've ever been. And I can assure you that if anyone was thinking of voting for me or staying at home because of the Virgil endorsement, being bullied and lectured by a bunch of Republican leaders in this state did not help them to vote for Randy Feenstra. If anything, they're like, well, okay, now I'm really not going to vote for you. Stop lecturing me. I do what I want. So anyway, plenty of reason for optimism. Let's fight the good fight together. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next, we are going to hear from our resident fighter. Not just fighters, mind you. All kinds of fights. The righteous ones. This guy will always be in the middle of them. He has been an IBEW electrician. He's been a union firefighter. And now he is taking on the huge task of booting Dan Dawson. And let me tell you, Pottawattamie County folks, Council Bluffs residents are not the only people who are excited about that, because they have their eye on this guy. They want him to be their new Senate leader, and we are not going to let that happen, right? Okay, so let's hear next from candidates for Iowa Senate District. What's the district now? 10, Iowa Senate District 10. I still have not flipped over from the previous numbers, but Steve Gordon.
Thanks, Pottawattamie County Democrats and the Labor. Always there for me when I've run, and I've ran several times, as you know. But, I'm sorry, is that better?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I've ran several times, as you know. But anyway, also I'd like to thank my wife. Jen forgot to introduce her as the union thug that she is. Her number one goal right now is to take Dan Dawson out of the Senate because of the fact he destroyed her teaching profession.
Yes.
Absolutely. In 17, he was warned and told that if he continued to work towards Chapter 20 elimination, teachers' jobs in this state would go down, teachers' pay would go down, and our education system as a whole would be weakened. And that has happened. And so, thank you, Chris, for all the work you do. She's my best friend, and she is a union thug. And so, I thought I would just kind of reminisce a little bit here. We started years ago, right in this place. We announced we were running against Mary Ann Hanusa for the Iowa House. A 36% performing Democratic district in Council Bluffs. And first thing someone said to me was, oh, that's like climbing a mountain, or moving a mountain, they said to me. He was a very well-educated and very smart person. And I listened to her, and I knew that this was a big deal. You know, but we went after it. And we didn't win that first time, but we raised the numbers from 36% to 46.5% in one run. And I decided again in 18 to run against her again. And my wife tore her sleeves off her shirt and made her mind up she was going to get Mary Ann Hanusa out of politics. And we went to work and we split that district with very little money. And we did it by hard work, putting our head to the ground and getting out there and talking to Democrats, Republicans, and independents about the importance of education and the direction our state was going on mental health, education, pay equity, and the whole bit. We split that and we raised it to 49.5 to 50.5. Then COVID hit. Everybody, COVID erased a lot of things. It truly did. And as Democrats, we recognize the health and welfare of our citizens, and we decided that we were not going to campaign in the usual manner that would put people's health at risk, especially being a first responder myself, that we would do it by phone and by Zoom, and we ran against Dan Dawson that election cycle, and Jen Pellant ran and her over on my old house seat that we took Mary Ann Hanusa out, and we were there. We were right there. All we lacked was the ability to get on the doors and talk face to face and shake hands, and we would have won all 3 seats in Council Bluffs. I would have won the Senate seat against Dan Dawson that time. Jen would have won on the House side, on the east side of town, and Charlie won on the west side. Well, once again, here we are in 24, 4 years later, we're still running, for one. That mountain's still there, but we're moving it a little bit at a time. And this time we're going to go over the peak of that mountain. The issues are on our side. We all know the issues. Chris and I and a handful of volunteers, Jeffrey, we've gone over 5,000 doors. And the conversations we're having on the doors in this election cycle are unlike any other time we've ran. I'm only talking to non-affiliated and Republican voters, and they are very good conversations. Our Republican friends in Des Moines, if we can call them friends, have overstepped. They've overreached. They overreach in women's health care, taking away freedoms from our sisters, our wives, the women in our community, our girls, because it's going to be a long impact and a hard road to get back your freedoms. Education. Unions in the day, our goal was to move children out of the factories and into classrooms so they could better their lives. What did our legislature do last year? They brought back in child labor. They're working 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds on packing house kill floors. I wired those things. That is no place for a child. No place for a child. It is a place for immigrant workforce that comes up here looking for a better life, and they will work hard every day, cut our food through the pandemic, and put their kids in our public schools because that is what builds families. And that's what unions are about, building families. I was blessed to be born into a union family. My father was a union postal worker. His father was a union state worker, AFSCME union member. My wife's father was an IBEW lineman. We were raised and taught, work hard, get in a union, and they will help to take care of yourself, and they will build families, and my family, and will have benefits and be able to retire. Dignity is what we need in our workforce. I had a conversation just yesterday on a doorstep with a man who didn't want to raise minimum wage. $7.35 or $7.25 in the state of Iowa. We haven't raised it in years. It's unreal. And I said, why is it that you don't want to give workers the dignity to take care of their own family, afford the food that they need? Our Lord knows that our governor isn't going to help them. We have food insecurity in this town, and she refused millions and millions of dollars that would have helped our community. Why would you not want to give that dignity to people? Well, he couldn't answer me. I said, well, you know what? I'm a proud union worker. My wife was a union worker. And we raised our children. We have good health care. We have defined retirement pension systems that are going to take care of ourselves the rest of our lives. And that's what I want to get back into Iowa. I want every Iowa person that lives in this state to be able to work, make a living, take care of their children, pay for their health care with good insurance, and retire here amongst their young children that they brought into the world, and celebrate life, because it's a quality of life thing that we're missing in Iowa. And there's no one to blame for that except for our Republican leadership. And so, I am asking you today, first of all, I need your vote. If you live in Council Bluffs boundaries in Carter Lake, I need your vote. Secondly, I need you to get up and work for us. Nothing came in my life without hard work. And I'm still working. And I battle these people every day. I battle them on the city council. And I stood my ground when the COVID money was in town until they discussed mental health. And guess what? We got a mental health hospital sitting right over here. Years of conversations on doorsteps. And I was talking to one of the CEOs, and they said, we surveyed your community, and your community had less stigma than any other community that we've ran into in years. And that comes from conversations Democrats have had on doorsteps, taking that stigma out of it and putting it to real life situations and how these individuals need their dignity and our help. And we're going to get there. And that is a great benefit. But I need you to work any way you can. Josh and I in Pot County, we're in an office on the 100 block. Come down next Sunday at 1 o'clock on the 8th. We're having a grand opening. Come in, see our office, sign up to volunteer. We're licking stamps, we're doing envelopes, we're doing mailers. There's many, many things that we can do other than just knocking doors. And we need you to donate. We need to get our message out, because our message is what's resonating with this community. Absolutely is. I would say, and I've been saying since last January when I started knocking doors, 5-1, 6-1, non-affiliated party people are voting and leaning towards Democrat that I talk to. We have to get our message out. Help us. We are going to go blue in this town, 100%, and you're going to help us do it. Thank you.
Thank you. I know who I'm voting for. How about you? Okay. So, after the most recent redistrict, first of all, I want to recognize a couple more people that I forgot before, but it's all going to come to me eventually. That's how it works when you're 52. But one is our county chair, Lisa Lima. if you want to work for Democrats this year, she's the gal you need to talk to. She would gladly accept your volunteer hours. Right, Lisa? Yes. Okay, and the other person is our former Senator, Mike Gronstal. Suffice it to say, things were a lot better for working families when Mike Gronstal was the leader in the Iowa Senate, right? So we miss him there, but we love having you here. So thanks for being here, Mike. And then the last person, I think he's around the corner on the grill, our retired Iowa House member, Charlie McConkie.
Happy to serve.
He's still serving in any capacity. We know it. And so, with that, I want to introduce his successor in that seat, who we got in that seat by 6 votes in the last election. 6 votes. I had just started dating my fiance at that time. He's a union electrician, but I'm sorry to say, not a regular voter. But he is now. And he got home, he worked late that day because he was working on a line crew, and he got home an hour before the polls closed, and I said, shower, don't shower, I don't care, but we're going to the polls, and you're voting for Josh Turek. And we did, and so I take credit for at least one of those 6 votes. Come on up, Josh Turek, champion of labor, and also Paralympic champion. I mean, my goodness, could we have a better representative for one half of Council?
Hello everyone, once again, very, very happy to be here on Labor Day. Thank you all for being here, really, and thank you in 2 years in doing this role. This is, I mean this. I had said it was the honor of my lifetime first to represent this community in the Paralympics. But representing in this role has far, far exceeded that. And so to be able to represent Southwest Iowa, this community, to be the first permanently disabled member, to represent 15% of the population with no voice and no representation, it has really, really been the honor of my lifetime. And that is thanks to all of you. I wouldn't have gotten here without you. So and secondly, this is Labor Day, and thank you to every single one of you in labor, organized labor, to the American worker. I made a social media post today and I said, and it is true, the backbone, the heart of America, the soul of America is the American worker. And we are only in the position that we have been for the American worker because of the strength of organized labor. And as long as I'm in this position, in whatever capacity, I will be pro-labor and I will be pro-American worker. It is the backbone of our country. Some of you have seen me speak. I normally don't come up here with notes, but my dear leader, Jennifer Converse, has asked me to say a few words on behalf of all of the Iowa House Democrats, so I'll do that. One thing quick though, I want to let you all know, for those of you who don't, September 26th, former Senator Tom Harkin will be here once again, the 3rd annual Turek Harkin event. We'd love for all of you to be there. And on October the 17th, our state auditor, Rob Stand, is going to be out here in Council Bluffs too. We'd love for all of you to come out and join us in that. I also, before I say anything more, I also want to thank every single one of you that has your sign out here, from Candela to Ryan to Ben, Steve, really incredible. Anyone, I know what that hard work is, to put your name out there and to put your name on the ballot. And let's do everything we can to support them all. Like Ryan was talking about, Iowa, 2nd in the nation in our cancer rate, only behind Kentucky, the only state with a growing cancer rate. I ran a bill this year in the Iowa House that would have just put $1 for every single Iowan into a state appropriation to addressing this. We have the 3rd highest rate of childhood, pediatric cancer, and we put $0.00 of state appropriation towards that. And that is because the Republicans ultimately only care about big business, government, and property. The Democrats, regardless of what it is, we care about people. We care about people's jobs, we care about people's health care, we care about their housing. That is what we are all fighting for. So I appreciate Ryan and his message. And Steve, It has genuinely been an honor to be out there. Such a hard-working candidate. It has been amazing. Last time I out there knocking all these doors, I didn't think anyone could get out there and knock more doors than me. But honestly, it's been great working with you. This office is incredible. Please come down, join us. Like he said, there's a variety of ways that you can help out in any way. But every door that he is knocking, every door that I am knocking, I'm dropping not only Josh Turek lit, I'm dropping Steve Gorman lit. I know that that's going to help him. He's doing the same. Every door that he's at in my district, he's dropping Josh Turek lit. We have a great opportunity. I've said this many, many times. We've got a lot of members on the school board. We've done well now on the city council. We've got myself in there by this small 6-vote margin. I've seen the polling numbers. We're running neck and neck with Steve Gorman. It's going to come down to a handful of votes. We've all got to chip in. Segrist is only going to run one more time. We have a great opportunity for this to change from me being one blue dot out here in this sea of red to making this whole entire community from top to bottom Democrat. So I'm going to say a few things here. This is from Jennifer Kahn first. Now more than ever, Iowans are frustrated with politics and the deep division in country, state, neighborhoods. Instead of fighting the endless culture wars, creating more division, the House Democrats, we believe we should work together and improve their lives. This is people over politics. Too many Iowans still struggle to make ends meet today. Their paychecks simply aren't keeping up with the rising costs of health care, food, child care, and utility bills. The system is rigged against them. At the same time, the wealthy and corporations are hoarding cash. There are now 756 billionaires in America. Keep getting richer. Corporate profits, all-time high. All while prices continue to rise. 1989, CEO to worker pay, 59 to 1. Today it is 399 to 1. Here are the 5 things that the Iowa lawmakers can do to help Iowa pay their bills and what us as Democrats and House Democrats are committed to doing. The first is we are going to fight for a constitutional amendment here in Iowa for all Iowa workers to be able to collectively bargain. This would prevent any law from interfering with that. The second thing is to guarantee retirement security for every single Iowan. This would make employers that do not have a retirement plan, their employees would automatically be enrolled into the Iowa Retirement Savings Plan Trust. A decent retirement plan is the right of every single worker. We are also committed to raising the minimum wage. What we want to do is raise it to $15. This would go up the first year. We haven't raised it since 2007. First year it would go up to $10.85. The next year to $13. The following year to $15. People are entitled to make a living wage. We are committed to doing is expanding Iowa's tax-free holiday to 2 weeks. Currently, this is only 2 days. 500,000 Iowans got no tax break whatsoever on the tax bill that we passed in the House. So what we would like to do for Iowa workers and for kids is we want to be able to raise the cap on clothing from $100 to $200, and we want to make sure that school supplies, art supplies, music instruments are all going to be tax-free exemptions. That is only fair and that is only just. And the last thing that is on Jennifer's list here is that we want to make child care more affordable. And this is a statewide subsidy that we currently have in place. We want to make it permanent, and we want to make sure that those that are providing the child care can also have affordable child care for themselves so they can stay on the job. Because along with having huge healthcare deserts in this state, we've got massive child care deserts. We need to do everything we can to make sure that we're doing everything we can for our child. And the last thing, and this is from me, is we got to do a better job for our disabled workers. And one thing that we have in Iowa that a lot of states have taken care of is in Iowa there is still a provision that you can pay a disabled worker a sub-minimum wage. I'm running a bill next year to eliminate that provision. Many of you have talked about it. I've said this is my magnum opus. If I could only get one bill across the finish line, it would be this. and that is to work without worry, and that is to raise the income and asset limits for disabled individuals to be able to keep their health care benefits on Medicaid and make a livable full-time wage. Because no one should have to choose between their health care and making a wage or being married. These are the things that we are going to do. I want to say that the campaign is going good. Myself and Steve, we are out there 7 days a week. We're going to win it again by hard work. 7 days, crawling stairs, knocking doors, talking to people. I can tell you that this is absolutely true. In the last 30, 40 days, there has been a dramatic shift on the doors. Dramatic. People are excited about Harris. People are excited about Walz. We can now make the statement that we are the party of change. We are the party of progress. If you're looking back on Trump. So many women that I have engaged with on the doors, people that have voted Republican their whole life, are saying, we're done with the Republicans, we're done with Trump, you are taking away our rights. 6 weeks is too much on an abortion ban. I do not want my child to grow up in an environment where they do not have reproductive freedom. It is making a difference. We are going to win this election on the doors by talking to people one by one. My ask to all of you, just like Steve said, there's a variety of ways to help us out. Certainly any donation, come down to the office, help us make phone calls, whatever you can do. But here's my specific ask. I won this last election by 6 votes. That shows you. No one can ever say anymore on the doors here that your vote doesn't make a difference. It makes a huge difference. I ask for every single one of you to find a way to either register 6 people to vote, help 6 people to get there, find 6 Democrats that were not going to vote and have been disengaged, get them there. If we all find a way to get 6 people, we're going to have myself in there, and we're going to have Steve in there. Thank you all.
We're going to pause for a commercial break. Linda, if you would hold up. If you go to a central committee meeting, you've heard me say this. What do I say? Whenever 2 or more Democrats are together, we pass the bucket. So the bucket's going to start going around to approve your office. Also, we have a Josh talked about his fundraiser September 26th. It is going to be, if you went to the one last November, raise your hands. Who went last November to that fundraiser? Well, guess what? You know how Harkin had a steak fry every year? It looks like Josh is going to have a charcuterie board every year, because that's what we're doing. And so we've got a sign-up sheet. There's a few items left that we need to fill out. So we're going to pass the clipboard around. If you could bring something, and my address is up there, bring it to me before like 5 to 25th. We'll get that set up and make sure you show up for Josh and all the other candidates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cheryl. I think people are leaving. I hope they're going to their cars to get cash and not to head for the exit. I'm just kidding. I think that's it. So, I said it would all come to me eventually, and it's getting there. So I do want to acknowledge some local electeds in the room, not the room, but our shelter today. One is Dolores Bristol, who's on West Pottawattamie for the Water Commission, and
I am not up for election this year, but make sure you turn your ballot over and vote for the non-partisan ones. And I'm in the West Pottawattamie Soil and Water. There's 3 people running: David Dittmer, Russ Feaster, and Gary Larson. I have no idea what party they are, but they're all good on the country.
okay. Thank you. That was Dolores' plug for the incumbents who are currently on the West Pottawattamie Soil and Water Commission. She says they're good. They do a good job on there. So don't forget to turn your ballot over. That's also where judge retention is. And you know, you might want to vote against a certain Supreme Court justice in the state of Iowa who does not support a woman's right to choose. So, what's his name? I posted on my Facebook. But other elected officials, I want to recognize Lauren Myers, who is on the Council of School Board. Wave to us, Lauren. I think we all know that is a job that harder since the voucher scam is siphoning money away from public schools. So we're lucky to have more in there, but we need to vote for people at the state level that will support public school boards with good policy, okay? And then the other one is City Council member Glenn Hurst from Minden. Talk about a job that's gotten infinitely harder this year. He's working on disaster relief over there, and they are really lucky to have him in that fight. So, okay, as you guys may or may not know, since the redistricting, there are now 5 Iowa House districts that touch the county of Pottawattamie, or include some portion of Pottawattamie County. And we have 2 rural candidates here today who are fighting hard to flip 2 of those seats. So that's who we're going to hear from next. You guys have a preference? Okay, great. So next we're going to hear from Benjamin Schauer. Benjamin is a union leader. He is a teacher who is active in his local ISBA chapter. And he's running for Iowa House District 15, which is to the north of us and includes a little bit of Pottawattamie County, if you're in that portion. So, thank you, Benjamin.
All right, well, good evening. I am very, very honored to be here today. I'm very, very grateful to be here today with my union brothers and sisters and friends of unions and friends of labor in a lot of different capacities. Like Jen said, I'm a teacher in the Boyer Valley School District. I'm a member of the Iowa State Education Association. President, yeah, thank you. President of my local and chief negotiator. So Chapter 20 gutting, it screwed me over as a new teacher, and that pisses me off. We need to do something about it. But I'm also here as a candidate for District 15. I'm running against Majority Leader Matt Winchell this fall. And that's all we're going to say about Matt. I'm sure he's a lovely human with his family or something. But I want to talk specifically about morality and what that looks like. I get a lot of questions about my rural race. The first one is, are you crazy? Are you stupid? Are you insane for wanting to run a race like this? The answer is yes. All of the above. This is not a race that I'm supposed to win. This is not a race that I'm supposed to even have any business being competitive in. This is not a race that in any capacity should be on anyone's radar. And in some circles we are, some circles we're not, but that doesn't matter, because this race for me is more than just about flipping the seat. Ultimately, that's what I want to do, because I'll talk about it again. Matt Winchell needs to go. He needs to go. That is what the ultimate goal. But beyond that, there are so many other important things that we can focus on. I had a house party earlier this week where I talked with a lovely bunch of Democratic women in my town of Dunlap. The big takeaway that we had is Democrats, especially in rural spaces, have to get out there and talk about progressive values. We can no longer sit down and throw up our hands when we get frustrated when our rights are taken away and we are put into systems of oppression that are going to affect us for generations. I'm a school teacher. I teach music in Dunlap. This is my 9th year. It feels like 30. Those of you that can relate. My gray hairs are starting to come in, so Linda, I understand where that comes from. My students like to point them out. They're like, oh, you got another one, Shower. I'm like, yeah, it's your fault. But what we're doing to public education is an absolute travesty. And it has effects that are far beyond what anyone else can see. You see, I'm a student of systems thinking. I practice it every day in the work that I do. When we talk about systems, we talk about the relationship between different systems. We talk about education, healthcare, and labor. Those are the 3 biggest ones that impact us in this state. When one system falters, they all collapse. When one system has an issue, it has ripple effects. It doesn't matter if I've got a strong school system and a strong healthcare system, if I don't have jobs and people to live there and work there. It doesn't matter if I've got strong labor, but my school system is garbage because the school vouchers are closing it or taking it away. We have to start talking about these issues systemically. In places like Council Bluffs, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Des Moines, you don't see that decline nearly as quickly as I do in mine. You just have to go to Harrison County and look at half the towns in Harrison County that are in such a decline that they have no hope of recovery at this point. There is no economic opportunity. There is no educational opportunity. It's a healthcare desert, like Josh said. There's nothing for them there. And that is the direct result of bad policy writing by our Republican supermajority and our increasingly radical Republican Governor Kim Reynolds. It's an uphill battle. Like I said, the goal obviously is always to flip that seat. The secondary goal, and the more important goal though, is to get these ideas out there. Liberal is a dirty word in my community. I don't care. If anyone asked if anyone didn't know where I stood before, they really know where I stand now. And I'm not afraid to have those conversations. I'm not afraid, like Steve and Ryan have talked about reaching across the aisle and dragging somebody with me. Because when it comes down to it, good policy is good policy. Education, healthcare, reproductive rights and freedoms, those should not be partisan issues. They are people issues. And the fact that we are using our people as political pawns, I'm going to swear, so cover your ears and defend you, it's bullshit. But it's straight up this. And we have got to start talking about these issues, not from the left, not from the right, but from a place of compassion, of talking for people. And that is the goal of this campaign. That is the goal of all of our campaigns. Because when we talk about these issues like that, we win. The number of Republicans, like we're seeing with other candidates, that when they have that conversation, when they see that I'm willing to walk on their doorstep despite the fact that, oh, I'm out in the middle of nowhere, there's a real chance that I could get shot, quite honestly, in some of the areas that I live in. But the fact that I'm showing up and wanting to have that conversation to better myself and to talk and listen to them, that goes a long way. That's all that people want. We can disagree. Half of the people that are Republicans that are voting for me, they disagree on reproductive freedoms. We don't land there. But they know that I'll listen to them when I get to the State House. They know that I'll listen to their opinion, that they'll have access to me. They know that I'm going to take care of their communities in ways that's not being done right now because I'm showing up. And that's the goal. So, we've got a lot of candidates here. We got a couple more to speak yet. But my challenge for you today, find one. Be their champion. We cannot do it alone. We cannot possibly hit every door, even with our union thug over there. We can't possibly hit every single door on our own. Especially those of us that still have full-time jobs. You've got Ryan that's working a full-time job. And how many miles on your minivan now?
237,000.
Yeah, a lot for that poor man. I've got like 4 punctures in my tires at this point from my gravel road canvassing. It's hard work, but we need people that help us. But not only that, we need that personal connection. All politics is local. Your word goes further than mine in this community because they know you. My sign in your yard goes further than me knocking on their door and not talking to someone because they're afraid to open the door because they don't know who this ginormous giant is. It goes so much further. And once that connection is made, then we can get them on our side. Then we can show them what real good governance looks like. So find a candidate, help them out. Donate. Put a sign in your yard. Postcards. Door knocking. Phone calls. There's a million things that you can do regardless of your ability level to get that done. There's so many things that we can do. And I challenge you to find someone today before you leave and say, hey, I'm in. What do you need? Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really honored to be here. It's going to be a great election cycle. I'm looking forward to working with all across the state.
Thank you, Benjamin. I don't know about you guys, but like there's a theme that's coming through. We have some amazing, fearless fighters fighting to turn these seats from red to blue, fighting to institute better policy at the state level. And I am about to introduce you to the most fearless fighter of all of them. She was a tireless activist before she ever even put her name on a ballot. And she does it all in an area that is not necessarily friendly to Democrats. So please welcome our candidate for Iowa House District 16, which is Mills County, to the south of us, part of us, and then Mills County and to the south. And that is Fremont, yes, Mills and Fremont. And that is Candela Foley-Vitro.
Hi, so I'm Candela, and I wanted to just recite a quote from Grover Cleveland in 1874. He said that The gulf between employers and the employed is constantly widening, and the classes are rapidly forming, one comprising the very rich and powerful, while in another are found the toiling poor. Corporations, which should be carefully restrained creature of law, and the servants of the people are fast becoming the people's masters. This is 1874. By my math, that's 150 years ago. And we are still struggling with those same exact issues. So, hi, my name is Camilla, and by trade, I was a social worker and a mental health provider. I provided mental health care for the Council Bluffs area. I worked for Allegiant for a while and then went into private practice. And I retired from my private practice in June of 2023 after being diagnosed with colon cancer. So I am the face. I'm the poster child of, as we talked about, the rising cancer rates. Yeah, so I'm struggling with that currently. I go to treatment every couple of weeks. I did get nominated and selected as the volunteer of the year last year for my work on Ryan Mountain and everything. Many of the other candidates in the area, and with my work on Ryan Mountain's campaign, I noticed that there were a whole lot of House districts and a whole lot of Senate districts within the Congressional District 4 that didn't have anybody on the ballot. And I knew from my own ballot, from going in to vote in my own polling place, that my choices were awful or fill in the blank. And my choices had been awful or fill in the blank a couple of times in a row, maybe 3. And I just could not live with myself having no one on our ballot. So I begged everyone in our district to please run for this office. And I got told at least 50-something no's, I think, or 45. I got told no by 45 people, but some of them told me no more than once. Yeah. And then Ryan Mountain came down for an event last fall, and somebody said, okay, I'll do it. And I was so pleased, and I worked very hard to get them on the ballot, helping get their signatures, and getting all the things kind of in place to help them run their campaign. And then at the last minute, that person said, you know, I just really can't do this. And I almost fell into a puddle on the floor, because that was kind of my initial reaction, to just be so disappointed and just like fall on the floor and just cry or whatever. But I didn't. I instead decided that somebody needed to have their name on the ballot. So I asked my mom, who was sitting there at my table, and I texted my husband. I'm like, I'm thinking about putting my name on the ballot. Texted my kids, and they're like, go for it. And I was like, okay, this is your one chance to talk me out of this. And they did not take that opportunity, so here I am. And so I've been following the Iowa legislature for a few years now, and I'm aware of the horrible way that Kenny's treated our workers. I'm aware of the child labor issues and the taking our public dollars and putting it into private schools, and we're gutting our AEAs. And there's so many. I made a list one day of 54 different issues. So like, ask me what I'm mad about. Like, I am so mad about so many things that I don't know that I can completely annihilate all of the things that Kim Reynolds has done. But I do know that we need more representatives in the House to push back against her awful, awful, awful stuff.
Yeah.
And I know that I couldn't walk in that polling place and have another awful versus fill in the blank. So I put my name there, and I'm there. Ready for House District 16, as Jen said. So my district would run from Trainer and Neola East. So all of Pottawattamie County that's east of Trainer and Neola. That includes Minden, that includes Oakland, that includes Walnut, and then all of Mills County, which is Glenwood, Silver City, Malvern, and then all of Fremont County, so Lunenburg, Sidney, Tabor, sorry. Yeah, and yes, it is a hard district. I have been discouraged a few times as I've gone out to do the doors. And then I've called people for pep talks, and they've given me a nice pep talk, and then I've gone out and done it again. Yeah, I appreciate your support. I appreciate your positive encouragement, and I appreciate all that you've done for labor and for the working families. And I'm going to kind of go back to something I was saying when I was knocking the doors for Ryan. We need childcare, healthcare, housing, like wages. childcare, healthcare, housing, wages. I mean, that's the big thing. On my walking cards, which I ran out of in Neola today, we went to the Neola parade and I gave all my walking cards away. But on my walking cards, I've got the 4 issues listed of reproductive health, the schools, obviously, local control, and the pipelines, because pipelines are run right through Fremont County. And so you guys know about the carbon capture pipeline, you probably Brian just talked about the carbon capture pipeline. And so nobody wants that in their backyard, or at all, really. So I guess that's pretty much all I've got to say, but thank you for your time. Thanks for listening.
So I am really sad that Candela doesn't have any literature here because it's awesome. It is short, it is to the point, and she frames everything in terms of freedom. So just be aware, Kamala stole that from Candela. Like we birthed the idea of freedom here in Pottawattamie County, and it's on Candela's walking cards, and they're awesome. So thank you for running, Candela. And now I'm going to give you over to Lisa Lima, our Pot County Chair, and she's going to tell you all the wonderful ways that you can get engaged in this election cycle.
Hello, Democrats. Thank you so much for coming out today. We're so excited to have you all here. I do want to mention that Candela's husband is IBEW labor guy, Jesse, over there, 25 years. Yeah, he was right at our Cookie Days parade this morning. So we, you know what, that was one of the first parades where I did not hear any negative remarks towards Dems. I didn't anyway, but we had people cheering. They even said, we're not going back. So, very good reaction. I wanted to mention a few dates because I know we all want to know what's happening. Tomorrow is Linda's luncheon, women's luncheon at 11 a.m. at Tish's. Then at 1:30, we're going to do a Ryan Melton postcard party at Scooters on Madison Street. On September 12th, which is a Thursday evening, we will have Dining Democratically in Oakland at the Bucksnort. And Candela will be there to meet any Oakland Democrats or anyone in that area that wants to come out. Yeah. Josh mentioned his fundraiser, September 26th. That will be at the Hoff Center at 6:30. So all of that will be sent out later. We certainly hope to see you. And then in October, Mr. Steve Gorman has a little birthday and a fundraiser on October 10th. And what time is that going to be? Did you guys set it?
6 p.m.
At Pizza King? 6 p.m. at Pizza King.
October 10th.
October 10th. Oh.
The ways out there.
Yeah. I'm sorry, this Sunday, September 8th,
Sunday,
is the open house for our office. And that is Josh's and Steve's office. I will say that because they are welcoming all of us Democrats there. It is from 1 to 3. There will be donuts and coffee at 100 West Broadway. We're right on the corner, catty corner to Broadway United Methodist Church, across from Caddy Shack, next door to the vacuum shop here in Chester. So, I just wanted to mention those few dates, but also that we're going to be getting some Harris signs in, and that I will put out a notice and probably have Beth put out an email when we get those in. Thank you for your patience. It has been a process, and I think we're not the only ones without signs, but we will be getting those in. So, thank you everyone for coming out.
Okay, I want to acknowledge one other person before we go, unless somebody shouts out that I've forgotten someone else, which you're welcome to do. But, so, Steve mentioned earlier that he ran against Marianne Hanusa in 2018? 2016 and 2018, I'm sorry, that's right. Christ. And then I tried to run against her in 2020, but she pulled a switcheroo, and I ended up running against the former Speaker of the House, Brett Segrist. But she's back. She just won't go away. She ran a primary this year against our longtime auditor, Melvin Hauser, and she won that primary. And unfortunately, sometimes winning a Republican primary in Pottawattamie County is the whole ballgame. So she will be on the ballot in November, but thankfully, yeah, boo, right? Because a county auditor is such an important position these days. These are the people who are safeguarding our right to vote, who are making sure that every vote gets counted, not just the ones for the candidates that they like. And as somebody who works in Woodbury County as well, I can tell you how extremely important this is. One of their only countywide elected Democrats up there is Pat Gill. He's been the auditor for 28 years, and he's in the fight of his life this year too. Why? Because they want control of our votes. They want control of our votes, because if we vote the wrong way in their eyes, oops, this one's smudged, that one doesn't look right, this person didn't show their passport, their proof of citizenship, so we're just going to throw that out, right? So it's extremely, extremely dangerous having these really extreme folks in these offices. So I do want to acknowledge somebody has stepped up to run against Marianne Hanusa, and his name is Brian Jack Holder. He's our resident videographer, and he is a libertarian. So
he's also been an ally of the labor.
Yes, he has been.
Several different things.
He has been an ally of labor, and he is an ally of, I would say, personal freedoms. And we need those right now, whether it's the freedom to get them the heck out of your doctor's office, the freedom to join a union, or the freedom to mind your own damn business, as Tim Walsh would say, right? So Brian has stepped up to run against Marianne Hanusa, so I'm going to give him a little bit of time right now to talk about that.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, everybody, for coming out here. You know, I've run for Congress 5 times. I didn't want to get involved in politics. You know, I'm just an average citizen like you, but at some point, you got to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
And I've hated bullies my entire life. And you may think that's sort of ironic, me being a big, tall guy, but, you know, I was pushed around when I was growing up by certain people. Usually they were little people with Napoleon complexes. But, you know, Marianne she was a state representative for 10 years, and she sponsored a bill that became law, which took away 5 months of petitioning from me for 2 election cycles. It took a libertarian to file a federal lawsuit, and this law was finally overturned. There was already a Supreme Court precedent from 40 years ago which says she couldn't do what she did, but she did it anyway. Her party did it. She also is a member of a party that increased my ballot access burden by 400%. And they blame me for former Congressman David Young losing twice in 2018 and 2020 to Cindy Axne. You know, that wasn't my fault. That was David's fault, the fault of his party, because David didn't really stand for anything. He was sort of a rhino establishment Republican. And so they sort of saw me as a scapegoat. But you know what, I'm fine with that. I'm happy to run for this office. I didn't want to, but I couldn't see her, someone that I consider an oath breaker, that violated her oath to protect and defend our constitutional right to vote, to run for office, to speak publicly, to assemble. She shouldn't be managing our elections. Now, the auditor's office has a whole ton of responsibilities. I found out last week they've got, I believe, 11 employees. And I went to the parade in Neola today, and I ran into Marianne, and she was cordial at first, but then she starts questioning me why I'm running for county auditor. And you know what? You know, her defensiveness, her attitude just really isn't good for somebody that is going to be managing our elections to be that hyper-partisan. But I did tell her, I said, Marianne, if I win, I'm going to give you a job. You're going to work with me. We're going to split the salary. We'll work together every day. Because I think that's what an American does. That's what a Catholic does. That's what a Christian does. There's enough work to go around. For me, it's not about power. It's about all of us being in power. So I don't ask for your vote, but I would appreciate all the support I can get. And Ms. Gardner gave me a check here. I didn't realize it was a donation for my campaign. I thought it was for me to film today, but I don't accept any campaign donations, but I want to give this back to the Pot County Democratic Party. So if Ms. Gardner is ready. So So thank you, everybody, for coming out. I'm sorry I got a little emotional, but, you know, 2 years ago I thought it was the last campaign I was going to run, but I guess I got called back into the fray. So thank you.
Is he on, are you on, name on the ballot?
I'm on the ballot, free and independent, like we all should be.
So, thank you, Ryan Jack Holder, for giving us a choice, because that's one of the things that we don't always have these days. But yeah, Marianne Hanusa has shown her anti-democratic stripes. When she was in the Iowa House, she tried to shut down the third party. She tried to make things more difficult in terms of candidates getting on the ballots. And that's not somebody who has the right philosophy to be county auditor, as far as I'm concerned. Being a county auditor should be about expanding the right to vote for as many people possible. So thank you, Brian, for stepping up to give us a choice in that race. So I don't think, do I have anything else? I don't think I have anything else, although I would like to say that we have a lot of foil and paper plates, and if you would like to take them to go, I'm sure that Marcia and I would appreciate it. I'd like to come to this event with a full car and leave with an empty car. So please feel free to take leftovers home with you and share them with anybody who wasn't able to come out for this today. But thanks again to all of you for being here, to everyone who provided this amazing spread for us, to our cooks, Charlie and Jeff, and to all of our candidates for being out there on the board fighting for democracy this year. So, because what does our candidate say? When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. All right. Let's do it.
I would like to take off the podium.
Sorry about it. No.